Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about my program that I'm running right now. So you've probably heard from my past videos of my training logs, I talked about it. I had an injury in September, October, forget exactly when, where I hurt my knees, and that changed my programming quite a bit. So I was doing very minimal squat volume. Because of that, I upped my deadlift volume, my deadlift frequency, and so my program now is basically what a normal program would be, what I run regularly with no issues. And I'm going to go into it now, and I'm going to break it down lift by lift. So first off, I'll just talk about the general format. It's 6 days a week, 1 day off. My frequency is 3 times on squat, 3 times on deadlift, 6 times on bench. The general format is DUP, or daily undulating periodization. So instead of doing blocks where I do high reps, then another block where I do lower reps, I just vary the rep ranges throughout the programming. And the reason for that is I've seen some scientific studies that I think show good evidence of the benefits of DUP programming. Another characteristic of my programming is the progression style. It's called a Hepburn progression. So you'll see, for example, on day one squats, competition squats, 3 sets of 2 to 4 reps. So it's not like I'm varying the rep ranges each day. What it really is week 1 would be 2 reps, week 2, 3 reps, week 3, 4 reps. Then week 4, I reset over again, adding 2.5 kilos. Simple progression, but it works really well, and I find it's really sustainable, and I just like the results I've gotten since I used it. You'll notice that once a week on each lift, I do a heavy single. It's at about roughly 90%. I could go heavier and hit an RP 8. These ones are probably a bit under RP 8, but the reason I like this submaximal style, I'll go into a bit later, but I've had great results just practicing singles at a lower RP range like that. And the benefit of singles year round is something I think everybody who's a powerlifter should do. The specificity of performing a single is great. I mean, you've seen tons of lifters who, myself included, I've been guilty of this. They hit all these huge rep maxes in training, and then they fail to translate it to a single on the platform. And I think the main reason is lack of practice executing a clean competition standard single. So that's why I like to keep it in my program on each lift at least once a week. You also notice that the weights, the intensity, it's pretty low. It's really submaximal, and there's a reason for that. If you want a really in-depth explanation behind it, the science behind it, you can look at Candido, Johnny Candido, Candido Training HQ, his channel, and he has a recent video where they go into, with some other guys, basically all the benefits of submaximal training. And to basically summarize it is, it leads to a lot better training outcomes. I find you can maintain your form better. You're going to get better motor patterns ingrained, and also I find it lets you hit more volume. So I'd rather hit more volume at a lower intensity than less volume at a higher intensity. I feel that will give you better results. One last note, something I didn't include that I am doing lifting wise is about 5 days a week I do 3 sets of biceps. So I'll do 3 by 20 of barbell curls just in my home gym, and also do back work 5 days a week, just choosing 3 sets of some pulling, either Pendlay rows or pull-ups, just to get some back work in. I didn't include that there, but I just want to emphasize that I am doing that too on top of this. So now let's talk about the squats. So you'll see that I'm doing it 3 days a week. It's basically alternating squat, deadlift, squat, deadlift, squat, deadlift, then rest. So 3 days a week. The first 2 days, I'm doing competition squats both days. Like doing lots of competition volume. Feel it's good for powerlifters to get specific work in. First day, my variation is pause squats. These are in the hole, 1 second. Something I will also do sometimes is above parallel pause squats. So what I do is go all the way down, then about 2 inches above parallel on the concentric on the way up. I'll pause for a second there. Either way, the goal is to work the transition out of the hole. I think a big problem a lot of people have in their squat is they'll have the hips shoot back, the knees go back, and then they get pitched forward, and it just makes it hard to lock out the deadlift. So what these pause squats do is when you're doing the hole, you don't have the momentum of the stretch reflex, so it's going to teach you to power through that sticking point, which is just above parallel. Keep yourself in good position. And the above parallel pause squats, if you let yourself get into that poor position, they're going to be a lot harder. So it's going to really ingrain the motor pattern of being in an efficient position out of the hole to push through that sticking point. My second day, I'm doing tempo squats, similar to pause squats in that they reduce the stretch reflex. If you look into, I don't even know what to call it, but basically the stretch reflex is mediated by how fast you are stretching the muscle. So in the tempo, you're going to slow the descent and your body's going to sense that the muscle is lengthening at a shorter rate, so the stretch reflex won't be as intense. So you're going to get that benefit again of less reliance on the stretch reflex to really muscle your way through that sticking point, maintain good position. And I've also just seen lifters I look up to have great results of tempo squats. The one in particular is Connor Borkert. He's the guy who actually beat me at the World Championships, one of the best 93s, if not the best 93 kilogram lifters in the world. You guys should go check him out on Instagram. His @ is Burley Bork, B-O-R-K, and you guys know how to spell Burley. And yeah, I've just seen him be doing tempo squats, and he's gotten great results with them. My last day is high bar squats. This is the higher rep day. Before, this is a general note, not really just the squats, but deadlifts too. I used to do 6 sets on these higher rep days. I'd also do some other high rep exercise. And I just found that just beat me down too much, especially as I've gotten stronger. These absolute loads, they're like, the volume just really adds up now, and I just had to reduce it to just 3 sets on this day. So that's why you'll see it on deadlifts and squats. I'm just doing 3 sets on the high rep day. So as to why I chose high bar, couple reasons. Main one is just it's easier to hit depth on high bar, and more depth means more range of motion, means more hypertrophy, and that's really what we're looking for on this high rep, higher volume day. So that's why I chose it there. And the other reason is it's just nice to get some other movement pattern in. And the third reason is basically I find it's easier to do high reps with high bar versus low bar squats. I just find it's more comfortable to do it. That's why I chose it. So now on to the bench aspect of my programming. I do it 6 days a week. This is super high frequency, and I think most people should do it. You see a lot of people with poverty benches, me included, and what I think the key is just 6 days a week or some other high frequency, very submaximal, high volume, and also tons of accessory hypertrophy work. Once I started programming my bench like that, in 3 months, 12 weeks, so a bit under 3 months actually, I went from a 363 pound bench press to a 405 pound bench press, and I had never touched a weight above 345 pounds that whole training cycle. That's the real key, I think, is keeping bench work submaximal, letting you accumulate volume. So as for exercise selection, day 1, I've got Larson press, real specific variation. You get a bit extra of range of motion if you're a guy who arches like me. You can't get your arch as efficient, and I just like it really specific. Work stability to be a bit good variation to use. Second day, I've got Spotto press. Really like that. For me, I'm sort of a midway sticking point, so it emphasizes that range of motion, and it's again, like Larson press, very specific, tons of carryover, and also a bit less absolute range of motion in the shoulders. Finds a bit easier on the shoulder joint. Good way to get volume and give your shoulders a bit of a break. Third day, this is my hypertrophy day. You're gonna see I'm doing wide grip bench. A lot of people find wide grip bench hurts their shoulders. For me, it's the opposite. I find it's easier to do wide grip bench versus close grip bench. Close grip bench always kind of aggravated my shoulders. I think it's just because when you're doing close grip, you're getting more absolute shoulder extension and flexion. So the less extension and flexion from wide grip seem to help me. So that's why I like to do it. It also will emphasize the shoulder muscles a bit more, which for a mid-range, right off the chest sticking point is more important. And you also see I'm doing a ton of hypertrophy work that day. Tons of tricep sets, tons of shoulder raises, tons of shoulder pressing. Just get a ton of volume in and get some hypertrophy. So then my bench press programming, within a week, it kind of resets again. So I'm doing very similar. You'll see I'm doing the same specific work on days 1 and 2, the same competition bench. And on days 3, I'm doing the same wide grip bench to start. Only difference is I only do the single once a week on bench. I don't see the need for excess fatigue from an extra single. I think the 1 time a week is enough practice already. My variations now are long pause bench press on the chest. Again, building explosiveness off the chest. One person I got this from was Josh Bryant. He coaches Julius Maddox, the biggest bencher in the world. I think he's coached something like 15 guys who've bench pressed 600 pounds raw. You know, Robert Wilkes, Swim Hack. You know, he's coached a ton of bench pressers. Great progress for them. So I've just been trying to implement some of his stuff. And goal is just to build explosiveness off the bottom of the chest there. Second day, tempo bench. Somebody I know, a peer of mine, his name is Matthew Shapira. He is a Canadian 93 lifter like me. And his bench basically blew up. He was at Worlds too, the year I competed. We competed together at Worlds. And his bench between then and the next Canadian Nationals just blew up. And one of the things he told me about was tempo bench really helped him. So I gave it a try. And I had great results. I gave it to a couple of my athletes I coached. They had great results. I really like it. Basically, 5-second eccentric, the lowering. Nice and controlled, and then pause on chest, press up. Simple, gets you a lower absolute load, so a bit easier on your shoulders, and really nice variation I like to use. So finally, on to deadlifts. Variations here. Day one, pause deadlift. What I do is I pause near my knees, and the reason for that is I tend to have bad lockouts on my sumo. And a big reason for that, I think, is because you let your shoulders get really far forward. It helps you break the floor easier, but what it does is it compromises your position for lockout. So by pausing at the knees, I find I punish where I usually start to have slowing down. So it's really trying to emphasize where my issue is. You'll see a lot of people do it off the floor. I think that would work somewhat for me, but I think by the knees, that transition from sort of, you'll hear some people talk about sumo as a leg press and then becomes a hip thrust at the end. And if you think about that transition from leg press to hip thrust, that's where I'm trying to get my emphasis on. So day two, I'm doing deficit deadlifts. I've always had a lot of success doing these. Bit extra range of motion. Yeah, not much else to say there. Just a good variation that I like. Last day, snatch grip conventional. It's pretty light, 4 or 5 pounds. The reason being for that, I find it tax the lower back a lot, and I don't want to go overboard there. I like to get the extra posterior chain involvement I find with snatch grips, because not only are you going to have to bend over more because your arms are out wide, right? You're going to have to bend over more to get to the bar. So it's almost like a stiff leg deadlift. You have to bend over more. But I also find I get way more trap and upper back involvement. So just entire posterior chain is emphasized with that exercise. So for the high rep day where I'm trying to get more hypertrophy, that's the program or the exercise I like to use. So that's basically my program. I'll just run it indefinitely, work up those rep ranges, reset, add 2.5 kilos until I have either a meet I have to prepare for, or I just see my progress start to taper off. And what I would do then is just switch some things up, not too much, especially if your block is successful. If your block is successful, I don't think you should change very much at all. And also the benefit of only changing a few things is you can better pinpoint what is working and what isn't working. So say you change like 10 different things on your squat and then you have a great squat cycle. Well, you don't know what of those 10 things was really what was benefiting you or what wasn't. But say you change just 2 or 3 things. Well, then it's a lot easier to pinpoint what might have been working and what might not have. So that's the general theory. Just change up a few things cycle to cycle and get what is beneficial kept, and what's not working, throw it away. And I've basing this cycle mainly on my cycle leading up to 2019 and 2020 Canadian Nationals, 2 of my most successful training cycles. That's basically what I'm doing, just tweaking a few things, what I find is going better and what I think might go better, and trying them out. So I'm excited to see how this train block goes. And I've been wanting to make a long video like this going into my training, because a lot of people ask about what my training is like. So if you have any other videos you want me to explain in depth about stuff, I know some people are asking for a squat tutorial, sumo tutorial. I'm definitely going to do those. My plan for a squat tutorial is make 2. One would be basically if you're a complete beginner, somebody who's very new to lifting, and you're just looking for a good basic squat tutorial, get the basics down, one like that. And another one where I go into more in-depth advanced stuff that I do, how I look at it, and looking at other lifters, elite level lifters, there's a ton of variance. If you look at how Vlado Hazov squats versus how John Hack squats, tons of difference. And then you look at somebody like Ben Polak. These are three elite level lifters, great squats, all squatting completely different ways. And I want to talk more in depth, about all these nuances that you can get with form and technique at a higher level. So that's basically it, guys. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe if you haven't, share the video, turn on notifications. It really helps me. Thanks for watching again.